Welcome, 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 folks. Welcome to Remodelers on the Rise. I'm Kyle Hunt. It is good to be with you today for another episode. Today is going to be a nice assortment of topics. We're going to touch on some marketing items. We're going to talk about some sales process items. We're going to talk about some employee management items. A lot of different areas of the business, which probably sounds familiar to you in that you wear a lot of hats. A lot of you wear a lot of hats. Speaking of hats, I have a hat on from Sound Contracting. Some might say, Kyle, why did you wear that hat? Because you have a gray shirt and that's kind of got a brown look. But look, I'm not a fashionista, but I'm happy to be wearing this hat. Todd Wetton out in the West Coast sent it to me, and I appreciate it, Todd. Thank you so much. If you guys want to send me stuff, I love getting it. All right, so on today's show, let's start out with something that somebody posted on the Remodelers community page. There's a free Facebook group called Remodelers Community. You can find it at remodelerscommunity.com. Please join it if you're not already part of it. It's great conversation. And Gerald Hayes posted something the other day. He said, I saw this video. It popped up on YouTube as an ad before the video I was watching. He didn't tell us what video he was watching. That might have been interesting. But it was interesting with what he shared. It was just a little 60-second commercial. It was for a timber frame building company. And the owner wasn't in it. There were no clients in it. All it was all of their employees being interviewed. A quick little clip. I love working here. It's got a very family feel. You know, the work we do is pretty hard, but it's very rewarding. And it just went through from the employees' standpoint, how they enjoy working there and why they work there. And, you know, they had a little fun at the end of like, join our team, that type of thing. When you think about video marketing in general, video marketing has a lot of ability to build know, like, and trust. It's a good route to go. And then this concept of you need to always be recruiting, always be recruiting, always be recruiting. And yes, you need a posting here and a posting there, and you should run a Facebook posting for your job opening. But we have to continue to get creative with how are we going to attract great employees? How are we going to get somebody that's a wonderful carpenter to leave the company they're currently with and come over to your team? And a great way to do that is to get your existing team to talk about how wonderful it is to work there. The potential employees will resonate with them, will relate to them. If they are working for somebody that is nothing but a knucklehead and always stressed and not caring for the team, your message is going to stand out. So that's a little reminder. I appreciate Gerald posting that in the group. You can go in there and you can search in one of the most recent discussions to see the example of that. But your takeaway that I want you to have there is, how can I use my existing employees to help promote what it is like to work here so that we can attract more people like them? Could be in written form, could be in a quick video. You could bust out your iPhone. You could have a professional come in. Consider that. There's your first idea of the day. And that chime means we're going to work on the next topic. And it's just a little bit of a brother topic to the previous one. Just a reminder on general video marketing. If you are on one of your job sites, chances are there is something interesting going on that job site. It could be interesting from a standpoint of a design element. Could be interesting from a standpoint of a certain product that you're using on that project. It could be interesting from a standpoint of the process that you go through and what you put down, that Schluter system you have before you do the tile. There's an abundance of interesting things related to the process and the selections and everything that goes into a remodel. And yes, there is a time and a place to have a professional come in and capture video, but it is also good for you just to get used to using video. It's also just good content to bust out your iPhone or your Android if you use that, but bust out your iPhone and say, hey, Kyle here with Kyle's Remodeling. What I wanted to show you today is we talk a lot about job site cleanliness, and I wanted to show you 2 ways that we protect your job site and reduce some and most of the dust that we experience during a project. Hey, Kyle here with Sound Contracting. I am wearing the hat. I should use that name. And what I want to show you today are the things that we do during the install of Windows to make sure that it is leak-proof and just as beautiful 10 years from now as it is today. Today, I wanted to show you, just kind of educate you a little bit about this load-bearing wall. A lot of people reach out to us wondering if they're able to open up a wall. In this case, here's what the situation was, and kind of show it. There's a lot that you can do. One piece of advice is do it and try it. Even if you record a video, nobody has to necessarily see it, but practice it. Number two, especially if people are in the home, it's going to feel really weird for you to do it. Get through that weirdness. Number three, when you do a video, don't go in there and try to show off 10 different things. Do one video on one very specific thing. It will do better. It will sound better. It'll be more organized. It'll be more interesting than if you just drone on for 6, 7, 8 minutes. Find something interesting that people ask you a lot about and show it off. One other thought related to this would be if you had an ideal prospect standing next to you. You guys both arrive on this job site that you're active on right now, and you have an ideal prospect that's also thinking about doing that major kitchen remodel. And you walked with that person onto the job site. What are the things that you would point out to them? What are the things that you would want to kind of show them, to educate them on, to say, this is something that we commonly do that really enhances the design. This is something that we do to protect your home. What are the things that you would show off to that ideal prospect? Those are the things that you should create little videos about. Okay. In 2024, the 2021 version of you would really wish that you would have started to get involved with creating videos. It is going to continue to be more and more important to create content that is interesting. All right. So there you go. Hi, Jim. I saw a like from my boy, Jim. Okay, so those are the first two items. The next one that I'd like to share on is something that I call BLBs. I haven't talked about it much lately. By the way, I am drinking out of the Zangle group. Connie, I think, sent this to me. I've been doing some one-on-one coaching with them. Thank you, Connie. I didn't put on your hat. I had to, but there's the Zangle group hat that they sent me too. Thank you very much. But I need a sip of water. BLBs. Breakfast, lunch, or beer. That's what that stands for. BLB, breakfast, lunch, or beer. And an area that we might not be thinking a lot about right now, but one that might be good for you to incorporate into your month or this week is this topic of strategic partners. Strategic partners. A strategic partner is anybody who shares the same ideal client as you do. Okay. If you're a remodeler, it could be a designer, it could be a realtor, it could be an architect, it could be one of your trade partners, anybody who shares the same ideal client as you do. And especially when you get into bigger projects, $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 projects, whole home remodels, additions, a lot of times those projects can start with a designer, with an architect. So there's a lot of different ways that you could slice this. The BLB concept is, hey, I was wondering if you wanted to have a BLB with me. Well, what is that? It's breakfast, lunch, or beer, your choice. This concept of, especially as COVID hopefully continues to slow down a little bit, that we could get together and break bread with people and get to know people. The purpose of that meeting is for you to get to know them. And certainly, yes, for them to get to know you. Are there ways that you guys can help each other? Is there information that you have that you've incorporated into your business that would be valuable for them? Something maybe you've even heard on the Remodelers on the Rise show. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But if you do that consistently where you do one BLB a month, that's 12 for the year. That's going to have a good payback for you. There's going to be relationships that you're going to continue to develop. There's going to be referrals that come from those relationships. And especially approach it from a standpoint of, I'm here to help them. I'm here to help them. And if you have that type of approach, it's going to come back to you in spades. The other really simple idea here is if you can even just start by creating a list of all of your strategic partners. Think of who has referred you over the last few years. Who have you met at a home builder association or a NARI meeting? I've always said NARI, but more people use NARI, so I've been changing it lately because I think that's the correct way of saying it. Hi, Jim Armstrong. Thank you for the like, sir. Make a list of all of those strategic partners. And what you're going to do as you go through that and go, wow, they used to refer me. I haven't talked to them in a while. and you actually pick up the phone and call them, maybe even set up a BLB, but at least even just reach out to them. You're going to have somebody that goes, man, I really wanted to touch base with them and I haven't yet. There should be a list of 15, 20, 22 strategic partners that you need to work to develop that relationship. It's a long-term play. It's a smart play. And it's a key part of marketing. If you don't need leads right now, by the way, it's a great time to be marketing. It's a great time to be developing those relationships. Jim had the first comment on today's show. He goes, hey, bro. Hey, bro. What's up, man? Good to see you. All right. Next one up here. This is a question that Michael Anschel, with an S after the N before the C, Anschel. I think I nailed it. He commented on a post that I made that said, hey, I'm doing a Remodelers on the Rise show. I've got a variety of topics, talking about video marketing, talking about BLBs. Does anybody else have any questions or comments that they'd like me to cover as well? And Michael did, and he posted this one. He said, let's say you have an employee in management who is really adept at pointing out places the staff and company could improve and challenging the team to make those improvements. So far, so good, right? So far, so good. I think you know that there's probably going to be a but coming, but so far, so good. You have an employee in management who's really adept at seeing weaknesses, at seeing systems that could be improved, at seeing challenges, and also challenging the team to make those improvements. That's somebody that may even be thinking of overall profitability. How can we be more efficient and more productive? Boy, it's exactly what we want our team to be doing and thinking about, right? Taking a little ownership of this. But there's more. That same individual isn't seen as a team player or approachable for criticism or feedback. So you have somebody that's really good at identifying and seeing gaps and seeing holes and room for improvement, challenges the team to step that up. But it's also somebody who isn't necessarily viewed in the business as a team player or approachable for criticism or feedback. Now we got a bit of a problem, don't we? What are some strategic ways to help that kind of personality step into more of the role of a leader and help them succeed in being someone people want to follow? Very delicate question, very delicate situation, right? One that we would want to kind of unpack a little bit more to really understand, how long has this person been there? You know, what is the root cause of maybe they're not liking feedback? Or, you know, are they pretty intimidated by getting feedback? Do they love to just nitpick? I'd want to know more about this person's personality and past history with maybe some employees, or how we've approached this in the past. You know, so for a delicate conversation like this, it'd be good for Michael and I to go back and forth and get more detail. But even on the surface, I think there's some things that we can talk about. What are some strategic ways? One thing that comes to mind is, how are we doing with just having a culture and having a relationship with our team, especially you as the boss, where you can be kind of frank, open, honest, and clear and transparent? Well, is that a safe thing? Is that something that you've done in the past? Is that something that you've built kind of a culture of doing, or would that be super weird? So one of these things is, it's not something, I think this is kind of a ongoing thing of how do we develop a culture where it's normal for me to say, I have a piece of feedback for you that you might not like, that you might get a little defensive about. But I think I want to have that conversation with you. Would it be okay if we did that? You know, that's piquing my interest. Of course, they're going to be interested in that. A couple other thoughts related to this, that the tool of a compliment sandwich. And you kind of did it right here, Michael, of going, you know, here's something that a compliment, and then a compliment sandwich is a compliment, and then some feedback, and then closing it with another compliment as a way that you can work into a conversation like this. You know, one thing I want to say, Jim, let's call him Jim, is that, you know, you have a knack and an ability to see where improvements need to be made, to see where we have gaps in the system, to even suggest and even challenge the team to work on them. And one thing that I, as the boss, one thing that I have seen, this is the corrective part, but look at what I'm doing, this is the delicate part, is if you've heard this from other team members, if you say, look, I'm hearing this, now all of a sudden we are in full defensive mode, right? This employee is going, okay, so there's employees talking to Michael about me behind my back. So that's very delicate. But if you take it and say, something that I've seen, something that I've noticed as your boss, is that when I've approached you, and see if you can find some examples of when you've done it, just to protect the rest of your team and try not to let that kind of wedge in there, if that's possible, is that when I approach you with things of feedback or some constructive criticism or things that I view as constructive criticism, you seem to take that really hard. That seems to be something that is more difficult for you to kind of process through and say, okay, what changes should I make, or what changes do I need to make? Now, with that said, I wanted to have that conversation. That's kind of tough maybe for you to hear, but I wanted to have it. And here's why. You've got so much good that you're doing for our business. And I know there's another level or 2 levels or 3 levels of leadership that you can step into for us in the years ahead. And this is an area, as your boss, as somebody that's wanting to take each of my employees and continue to make them better and better and better, that I think is an area that we need to work on. You know, what is your initial reaction to that? And then let's talk about it a bit. So there's something around there of some complimenting, of you taking ownership of it, of trying to protect the rest of the team and those inner relationships, which is very hard and delicate to do. But what you're also hearing is me directly saying, when I approach you with feedback or criticism, here's what I get back, and here's what I've kind of seen, and I want us to work on that. That ability to build enough of a culture where I can directly say something pretty direct like that, and we can have a big boy or big girl conversation about it. So it's very delicate. But hopefully there's a few things, and Michael, hopefully you're either catching this live or you're catching this on the replay. I'd be curious if that's helpful. The other way to do this is when we do an annual review, a format that I really like is to have the employee do a self-appraisal, and then for you as the boss to do an appraisal. And you go through different categories of communication, of problem solving, of boom, 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 boom. If anybody wants to reach out, by the way, if you want to email me, kyle@remodelyourmarketing.com. I've got a really nice outline for an employee review. Feel free to reach out about that. But when you do it that way, and you have these different 8 or 9 different categories where they are rating themselves on 1 to 4, 4 being excellent, 1 being weak, and giving a little bit of the reason why, and then you're able to also rate them on each of these topics. What a great way for you to easily move into this conversation of going, you gave yourself a 4 on that. I gave you a 2 on that. You know, let's talk about that one. And then also during that, there's all kinds of them that you are going to be in lockstep on. Dude, I think you are off the charts on this. You did excellent. I think you're being too hard on yourself for that. I view you as better than what you rated yourself on that. So in an employee review type arrangement, you can bring this up in a very structured way. And the goal of any employee review is to then have a plan that says, okay, over the next 90 days, we've identified 1 or 2 things that we want to work on, that you want to work on, and I'm in agreement that I want you to work on it. What's some of the next steps for us to do on that? Right now we've taken this and we've broken it down. We've set a little 90-day review. We've identified maybe a few ways that he can work on this or she can work on this. And then it's all about that follow-up. At 30 days, hey, just wanted to have a quick little meeting to just say, remember what we had 30 days ago? We talked about some things. How are we doing so far on that? What's worked? What's not? What's our next 30 days look like? That's good management. And again, continuing to emphasize all of the good that they're doing and how do we get some of this corrective and stepping up leadership to happen. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. The question you asked, again, it's very delicate. We have to be careful not to speak out of turn. We have to be careful when an employee approaches us about another employee, how we handle that. We don't want to cause more division between them. So there's some thoughts for you, my friend. All right, it's time for the next topic here during the Remodelers on the Rise. I'll do a little rapid fire here. One thing related to this is a little sales process item, and I have a little thing that I wanted to pull up. If you are doing the initial phone call with a prospect, if you are doing the initial in-person meeting with a prospect, there are a couple little things. I'm trying to bear with me because I'm just trying to pull up the file that I'm looking for. But my thought here for you is when you arrive, let's say it's the in-person meeting. When you arrive for that in-person meeting, oftentimes the person that you're with that the prospect can easily take charge of the meeting, and you can lose control of it very easily. Raise your hand if that's happened to you. Yes, right? Well, let's look at the part that needs to be remodeled. I'll take you over here, and they just take over. If you were able to say at the start of that meeting, thanks so much for having me out. What I want to do on this meeting is cover 4 things. Number 1, I want to go see the space that you're remodeling and hear all of your ideas and see the space. Number 2, I want to share a lot of ideas with you that are coming to my mind as I'm listening to you, as I'm looking at the space, and just give you a lot of ideas and thoughts on design and execution. Number 3, I want to share how, I want to have a frank and open discussion about budget. Could be number 3. I want to just hear what you guys are thinking for budget. I'll be able to give you a ballpark range based on projects that are similar in size and scope and my experience. And then number 4, I want to talk about what the next step in our process is and see what makes the most sense as far as moving forward or not. Okay. So I stumbled on that a little bit, but hopefully what you heard was when you have that meeting, you give them a little bit of an agenda up front. What I want to cover today is 4 things, boom, 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 boom. And then as you go through it, you can pull the reins back pretty easily. Okay, awesome. So we've covered number 1 and number 2. Can we go maybe even sit down in the kitchen if that would be comfortable for you guys? And let's go over number 3 of having a kind of a frank and open discussion about the budget, and I can share with you a little bit of a ballpark range. And then number 4, we can talk about our process and what the next steps are. Sound good? Wonderful. Great. Right. You can control it, not in a salesy way, not in a slimy way, but in a very professional way. So I wanted to give that as a little bit of a view of what that could look like for everybody. Cool. Jim had a comment. I like the asking permission to speak to the employee instead of just dropping the hammer on them. Yeah, especially when we're talking about something delicate. This is going back to what we were just talking about with employee management. When we're talking about something delicate, to be able to say, I have something difficult. I have a difficult conversation that I want to have with you, and I want your permission to talk about it. Are we okay to do that? I have something I've been wanting to bring up that it's not a huge deal, but it is a little bit of a deal. It's something that I want you to work to improve, and I was wondering if we could chat about that. Right? There's a lot of different ways to color it and kind of set it up, but to get them to say, yeah, that sounds good. It's very similar to what I just covered. When you go through those 4 items, does that sound good to you? You get buy-in to what your agenda is for the meeting. When you say, okay, let's do number 3 and number 4 now, they know exactly what you mean. It gives you structure. You can do that same thing, by the way, on the initial phone call. Hear what you found, hear how you found out about us, and talk about any previous remodeling experiences you've had. That could be number 1. Number 2, I want to ask a lot of questions about your project. Number 3, I want to share how our process works. Number 4, if we both agree it makes sense, let's set up a time for an in-person meeting. Right? You can do that on the initial phone call. Nice structure. They feel comfortable. You feel comfortable. You can do the same thing at the in-person meeting. Cool. So hopefully that was helpful. Because that's what this is about, is to be helpful to you guys and give you some reminders, give you some tips, little other ways to look at it. The other reason I do this show, let's just call it what it is. I do like to pepper in at times some of my services. I am a business coach for remodelers. If you are not staying in touch with your previous clients whatsoever, you did a project 2 years ago and they haven't heard from you at all, you should sign up for remodelersautopilot.com. It's $1 to try. It's $125 a month thereafter. You get a professional email each month. You get professional social media posts. You get access to a little Ask Kyle Anything Zoom call. It's usually pretty fun and helpful to get your questions answered on a variety of topics in a different format. Go to remodelersautopilot.com. Chime. All right, a few more items that I want to touch on during the Remodelers on the Rise show today. We've hit on a variety pack. I enjoy the variety pack days. I was off last week. We didn't do any shows last week. My family and I were down in Hilton Head enjoying some warmth. My wife wanted for Mother's Day warmth, so we drove down there, had Had a nice time. Did some working in school during the week. Had some beach time and pool time as well. But the week before that, I'd had a couple guests on, which were great. And then we do a show like this where it's just me sharing answers to your questions and a variety of topics. Let me hit you with 3 or 4 more. A reminder that time kills deals. Time kills deals. We need to make sure that we are watching and measuring and paying attention to our cycle time. The cycle time could be the amount of time between that initial in-person meeting and when the project development agreement's signed. Cycle time could be between the time the design and project development agreement signed to the time that the contract is signed. Right? There's a lot of different ways to measure cycle time. But when you are as busy as you are right now, it is very easy for a week to slip and then it turned into 2 weeks, then it turned into 3 weeks. Time kills deals. You need to keep moving people through the sales and production process at a good clip. You need to measure your cycle time. You need to pay attention to that. The best piece of advice that I have on this topic is always have a next meeting booked. Do not say things like, by the end of this week, I'll get that to you. By early next week, I will get this to you. Book an actual meeting day and time. Could be for a phone call, could be for a Zoom call, could be for another in-person meeting. But that's the best piece of advice. Time kills deals. We need to reduce the cycle time. The best way to do that is every prospect that you're working with should have a very clear next step, date and time that you're meeting with them or talking with them. Cool? Take that advice. If you're not doing that right now, if the words later this week or mid next week are coming out of your face, you need to stop and you need to book days and times. I don't know why I've been using that phrase a lot lately. I should have said coming out of your mouth, but I've been using the phrase coming out of your face lately just because I think it's funny. You might think it's weird. Whatever. If you had your own show, you could say things whatever you feel like. Nobody can stop me. I guess people could leave and nobody could watch this, but I think it's humorous, so I got to keep entertained. Couple other items. Expected versus actual. I'm going to say it in just a very sweet voice. You have on your kitchen project you're working on right now, you have your expected gross profit. Gross profit is total sales minus cost of goods sold equals gross profit. If you look closely at your estimate, you should be able to see I'm expecting $12,422 of gross profit on this project. That is a very important thing for you to know, Mr. or Mrs. Remodeler. And then what I would desperately want you to do is to set up a simple way and system for you to be watching your job costing. What is your actual gross profit on a project? That means you need to track the number of hours that were worked. That means all of your material costs and all of your subcontractor trade partner costs are tied to that project. But during that project, you should be able to check on this. And at the end of the project, you should be able to say, I was expecting to make this, and here's what my actual was. If you ended up making more gross profit dollars than what you were expecting, you have something called grippage. Oh, it's exciting. It's wonderful. You made more than what you're expecting. And then its evil twin sister is called slippage. You can call her Slippy if you want. We don't like Slippy. Slippage is no good. We call her the evil stepsister for a reason. Slippage is when you have made less in gross profit than what you were expecting. I'm telling you, my friends, and I've been beating this drum over the last 6-9 months, I'm taking it more seriously and coaching it more, is that if you want to add another 3 or 4% of net profit to your business this year, if you want to have another 30, 40, 27, $47,000 of profit, of net profit in your business, go here. Watch your job costing closely. You're going to see slippage. You're going to become a better estimator. You're going to become a better production manager. You're going to get your team involved in seeing job costing and have a weekly meeting where you review even job costing, and you're going to have way less slippage and make a lot more money in your remodeling business. And when you make more money in your remodeling business, you may decide to give your team a raise. Pretty important these days. You may decide to add a new benefit and add that simple IRA with 3% company match. You may take more money out of your business. You may be able to just build up that savings account in your business so that cash flow isn't as tight. There's a variety of things that you can do to make more money. And take it from me, I see it year after year, remodeler after remodeler, watching your job costing closely. If you're not watching your job costing closely and you start to take that really serious, you're going to see a lot more money staying in your bank account instead of slipping away. Old Slippy. We're going to start calling her Old Slippy, the evil stepsister, Old Slippy. Okay. I think that's it for today. We've covered a nice variety pack. I hope it was helpful. I'd love to hear your takeaways. I'd love to have a little like if you watch this. If you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and push pause right now and go into Apple or go into wherever you're listening to it and give me a little 5-star. Give me a little written review underneath that. That's helpful for other remodeling colleagues of yours to be able to find this content. And it lets me see that you're out there and motivates me as well. So feel free. Oh, somebody just gave me a like because I just said it. Thank you, Amy Brown. See, I didn't know you were watching, and then you liked it, and I'm like, oh, Amy got this. I hope she got some value from it. It fires me up. All right, my friends, I will talk to you again. I'm going to do this again on Thursday, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, catch you later.